Hello everybody, this is Bea Harper from supermarcy.com and welcome back to another book review. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favourite fantasy books ever written, which also happens to be written by one of my favourite authors of all time. The Eyes of the Dragon by Mr. Stephen King. Alright, so short confession time. Recently, I haven't been on the King wagon. That is to say, I have not really read any of these more recent novels in recent years. Now, that's purely my own fault. I blame nobody else for it. I don't blame Stephen King. I don't blame my friends. I don't even blame God. And I blame God a lot. But quite recently, I've gotten back onto the wagon by reading Dr. Sleep. Now, Dr. Sleep is the official sequel to The Shining, and let me tell you, Dr. Sleep is like the Stephen King I fell in love with initially. Now, I'm talking about the Stephen King who wrote It, Carrie, The Stand. You know, his most well-known novels are well-known for a reason. They take steps, they push the envelope, and they aren't afraid to go places. And Dr. Sleep is a worthy follow-up of The Shining. It feels like no time has passed between, when he published The Shining and when he started to write Dr. Sleep. It really is that good, so most highly recommend you pick it up. You will not regret it. So, going back to The Eyes of the Dragon, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to read the blurb on the back of the book, and then I'll go into my review. Okay? Here we go. The king is dead, murdered by an unusual poison. While evidence is gathered and the land of Delain mourns, Flag, the king's magician, unscrupulous, greedy, and powerful, plots. Soon, the king's eldest son, Peter, is imprisoned in the Needle, the top of a high tower, for his father's murder, and his weak brother, Thomas, inherits the throne. Only Peter knows the truth of his innocence, and the true evil that is Flag. Only Peter can save Delain from the horror the magician has in store. He has a plan, but it is rife with danger. And if he fails, he won't get a second chance. If I had to describe this book in, one word, simple. Now, that's not to say simple is bad, alright? Let me tell you, any book can be made to work. Like, it doesn't matter if the author chooses to have, enormous political intrigues, vast sort of casts of characters, all these meaty things that we've come to expect from most fantasy novels. One example, of course, being The Song of Ice and Fire. The Song of Ice and Fire is, all the rage these days, and for very good reason. But with Eyes of the Dragon, it plays out like a fairy tale. And fairy tales to me are essential. Now, the reason why I say that is that fairy tales just tend to take the simplistic elements in life and run with it. It all depends on how they are executed in terms of how effective they are, and in Eyes of the Dragon, it works beautifully. You have the classic battle of good versus evil in a medieval setting with magic and bad magicians and going on a quest. This book is all about going on a quest, alright? And what better heroic story doesn't have a quest in it? Now, the character of Peter is a very sort of upstanding and very charming and kind protagonist, but actually my favourite character in the book would have to be his brother, Thomas. Thomas was not conceived under the best of circumstances, and he wasn't born under the best of circumstances. And it is because of that he is more seen as, Richard III. Now, that's not to say Thomas is a bad guy. He is not a bad guy. It is Randall Flagg who is the bad guy. And yes, that Randall Flagg. Randall Flagg has returned countless times in Stephen King's books because it is all part of this universe that the author himself has created. Now, if you are a fan of Stephen King, you will know, where Randall Flagg is possibly going. But, Randall Flagg is the undisputed villain in this novel, there is no doubt about it. But it is Thomas who is given a lot more human depth. he's constantly underestimated and overlooked, all because his brother is, seen as more powerful and better than he is. And in a sense, Peter is a better man than Thomas is, but it's only because Thomas has been, ground down into the earth and like stomped on and sort of spat on and everything. So when Thomas decides to sort of ally himself with Flagg, he doesn't necessarily do it to hurt Peter. I mean, there is spite there, but there's not one moment that Thomas says, "Oh, I want to kill everybody in the land. Blah, I want to take over the world." It's not like that. He just wants respect, and that to me makes for a very good sort of protagonist / antagonist. At the end of the novel, like, he's all but run out of the kingdom, but he is on a mission to chase Flagg because of all of what Flagg has done. So, if you ask me, Thomas really is a hero in this book, but it takes such unfortunate and adversarial circumstances. Now, going back to why I think this book works, it is because of the simplicity. It's as simple as that. Like, it's got magic, it's got sorcerers, it's got quests and, dashing heroes and, sassy women and that sort of thing. Like, I love the female character, one of the female principal characters in this book. She's a firebrand. I like her very much, and I love how King has portrayed her. You don't get a lot of sort of strong women in fantasy novels. Well, here's the thing, as I said, I haven't actually said this, but I've never truly been into the high fantasy genre. Now, A Song of Ice and Fire is an exception for me, and so is R.A. Salvatore's fantasy novels. But ordinarily, it's never really been on my radar. So Eyes of the Dragon for me is an elementary class in fantasy, and I'm so glad I had the opportunity to read it. It really is very good because of just how undemanding it is. Like, it's very sort of comprehensive. Here's the thing, I've read this book about 3 or so times now, and the only reason why I loaned it out from the library was to read it for a fourth time. I really should buy this book, because every time I go to the library I have to rent this out if I see it. It's just left that much of an impact on me, and it all just comes back down to King being permissive with his audience. Like, he gives you a very sort of basic description of the characters and the locations and the circumstances, but he leaves it up to his readers to truly sort of fill in the spaces and, recreate this world that he's created in their own minds. And you know what? There's nothing as wonderful as an author who trusts their audience to do that. It's beautiful. Do I have any sort of malcontentions with this book? Not really. It may sort of put a couple of people off who prefer the fantasy and the sword and sorcery to be a little more complicated, and that's well and good. It's all a matter of preference. But if you aren't a high fantasy fan like me, you can always start off by reading this. It probably won't change your mind and make you want to go out and, loan out all sorts of high fantasy books, but this is a great place to start. It doesn't insult your intelligence. It doesn't demand your patience. This book basically has all of what you need for a classic adventure story, and that is what truly counts. So I give The Eyes of the Dragon a 4.5 out of 5. Okay, so personally I would give it a 5 out of 5. But if King wanted to create a more complex world within this book, I want to see more of the adventures of Delain. I want to see more of the adventures of Thomas, of Peter, of everybody in this book. I want to see more of them. So I hope that Stephen King, puts out another sort of story about the Chronicles of Delain and the people, because I really want to read it. So until that happens, as I said, I give this book a 4.5 out of 5, and God bless. Love this book. So yeah, you take care of yourselves and each other, and I shall see you again. Bye bye.